Chicago police. What we believe happened was that somebody threw a bottle at Chicago police. A number of minutes later, about a dozen Chicago police officers, after believing they identified the person, ran into the crowd at full speed. They attempted to grab the man, but it appears as though he got away. He did manage to toss a bottle, a 64-ounce half-full bottle of some kind of clear liquid at police. It didn't appear as though anyone was hurt. It was one of only a few things that have been thrown at police from the crowd tonight. Now, there are some members of an organization called the Black Bloc here. If you saw Rubby's coverage of the clash earlier at the end of the march from the park here today, you know that Black Bloc has been blamed for the violence that occurred at the end of that march. Here now is a little closer look at some familiar tactics. This was no accident. The Black Bloc contingent that clashed with police after the march had ended came prepared for a fight. As the peaceful procession led by American military veterans came to an end, we observed members of the Black Bloc preparing items in backpacks and bags for an apparent assault. Although they tried to prevent us from seeing what they were doing, we did see gas masks, bags and bottles of liquids, some of which may have ended up being thrown at police.
We had some real human intelligence out of the crowd that a couple of things were happening. One of them was somebody who claimed to have an incendiary device in a backpack, which was overheard by one of our officers. And that person was removed from the crowd and arrested by undercovers without incident.
This was the man McCarthy was talking about, that police first identified as a Black Bloc organizer. When the trouble started and he was arrested, we were only a few feet away when police detained him on the pavement. A few hours earlier, the march was more peaceful, and the Black Bloc, numbering a couple hundred, paraded together from Grant Park. Black Bloc is not actually an organization, as much as a loosely formed movement that comes together during political events under the cover of face masks. Today's rampage in Chicago came about in a similar manner as when Black Bloc first surfaced in 1999 during the World Trade Organization protests in Seattle, at the expense of other non-violent protesters. Today, Black Bloc protesters either wouldn't speak with reporters, or their choice of words couldn't be broadcast. And what, if anything, they want has never been clearer. Police tonight acknowledged that all of those Black Bloc members could have been arrested during the demonstration today that turned violent on the South Side, but that would not have been in keeping with the posture that Chicago police have taken and have promised to take over these last several weeks, and that is that they would arrest people for individual crimes that they saw and not merely for protesting. But some of those Black Bloc members this afternoon have returned here to North Michigan Avenue tonight and are in front of the Art Institute as the Michelle Obama gathering wraps up. Reporting live from Michigan Avenue, Chuck Gowdy, ABC 7 News. Ron, Cheryl.
All right, thanks very much, Chuck. Now, before the chaos, there was a peaceful protest that began with a rally in Grant Park.
Violence is no answer. We must be the antidote to violence. We must go another way. We must go another way. Stop the violence now. Give peace a chance.
Reverend Jesse Jackson encouraged protesters to keep the peace as he made that speech at the Petrillo Band Shell. He was one of several speakers to take the stage before the march began. The protesters snaked their way through the loop, eventually marching down Michigan Avenue with police officers in riot gear lining both sides of the streets. This is the march that ended at Michigan and Cermak, where another rally was held, and that's where several veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan symbolically gave back the medals they had received for service to NATO.
ABC 7's Paul Mikey was there for that ceremony, and he joins us now with more on the veterans and their message today. Paul?
Cheryl, Ron, there was a lot of negotiation that led to the vets not just leading a parade of many different causes, but also being the only ones allowed to speak at parade's end. Their message, at least initially, got lost in the scuffle, so to speak, because it preceded the clash between police and protesters. Nonetheless, it was a quite powerful message. Each of them, for their own reasons, concluded that the wars they fought in were wrong, and so they marched together today, about 4 dozen veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, each prepared to return their global war on terror medals in symbolic protest. Soldiers like Sergeant Jacob George, who did 3 tours in Afghanistan.
I do not feel like the intentions of the overall mission match my intentions as an individual and most of the people we serve. So I'm willing to give this back, even though it is a very emotional thing for me.
I was in Iraq in 03, and what I saw there crushed me. I don't want us to suffer this again, and I don't want our children to suffer this again. So I'm giving these back.
One by one, 45 veterans spoke of their own anger or pain, and each turned and threw their medals toward McCormick Place.
It's a good conduct medal.
They had asked that the NATO representative formally accept them. That did not happen.
I'm one of 40,000 people that left the United States Armed Forces because this is a lie.
I will not continue to trade my humanity for false heroism.
Vincent Emanuele is from a multi-generational military family. Returning his medals, he says, is about sending a message to the world, but is also cathartic.
And for many veterans to deal internally with what it is we have experienced overseas, and then to come back and to make amends with ourselves.
This medal right here is because I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all of you.
Aaron Hughes, who served in Iraq, helped organize what became a moment on an international stage. A moment meant, he says, to show disdain toward policymakers and not the men and women still fighting.
I love all my brothers and sisters that are in Afghanistan still, and I hope to get them home soon.
The NATO leaders were meeting just a couple of blocks from where the military marchers spoke their piece and threw their medals. We don't know if the event made it to their attention. The ex-servicemen and women who took part say that through this gesture they wanted to send a message that withdrawal from Afghanistan cannot come too soon, and that men and women returning are not getting the care, specifically the mental health care, that they need. If we go back 41 years, it was a similar situation when veterans coming back from Vietnam, disenchanted with that war, threw their medals over a barricade at the Capitol because they were not allowed in.
Clearly a well-thought-out action.
Very much so. Very much so.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Mayor Rahm Emanuel shares the spotlight with several world leaders. That story when we come back.
Plus, we'll take a look at the key events at tomorrow's summit sessions.
Luna is the proud sponsor of Closed Captioning.
Buy one room of flooring, get all other rooms of products for only $50 each.